Just got back from the P.O. box. First batch of mail. Does this seem like an appropriate place to open up the mail? Chilling on the couch. Maybe we can call this segment Mail on the Couch. Andrew, Happy New Year, love the vlog. About time you got a P.O. box. Keep up the good work. Good luck, Andrew from Michigan. Nice name. Thanks, Andrew from Michigan. Postcard from Michigan State University. It's been too long since I've made a visit to good old East Lansing. Memories. Dear Andrew, I thoroughly enjoy your vlogs. Very well done and professional. I'd like to see more hand analysis, especially with respect to folding hands, I think that says. Also, the studying of poker. All right, I could do that. Cheers, Heath from LA, I think. Sorry, it's a little tough to read your name. I think it says Heath from LA. You got it, buddy. Hey Andrew, thanks for taking the time to vlog. Appreciate your clean style without profanity. I'd like to see more drone footage of Las Vegas. Here's a stock tip for you. Oh, very helpful. All the best, Joe from Chicago. Cheers, Joe. I will look into this stock and invest a lot of money, no doubt. Oh man, long letter here. Andrew, congrats on the fantastic vlog. I figured I'd write you an old-fashioned letter in an attempt to make your new P.O. box monthly payment seem worth it. Very helpful. I wanted to tell you how much I have enjoyed your vlog. I watch it as soon as a new one comes out. Your honesty and how humble you seem to be. The brutal honesty about poker and how hard it is to make a living make it feel more real. In 2003, I made the trip out there monthly to help pay for college and life. I gave it up after starting my career. I have a family, kids, and a business, but between your vlogs and dusting off old poker books has got me 100% into poker. I'll look for you to say, hey, keep up the great vlog, Tom. P.S. There are not poker chips for a beer, so if you want a free drink, I'll look for you in February. All right, look for me in February, Tom. I will gladly accept that free beer. Thanks for the letter. Apparently this is Tom's ice cream and yogurt shop in Lakewood, Colorado. McGill's. Anybody in Lakewood, Colorado? Go get a scoop. Andrew, a friend introduced me to your vlog a few months ago. Great work, and I enjoy it very much. Keep up the good work. As a thank you for your effort, I have enclosed a book which I hope you enjoy. I'm an avid reader and poker player and believe that books should be shared, much like your experience playing cards. I hope you like it. If you give me a shout out in your vlog, I go by Johnny Bones. Well, Johnny Bones, you got a shout out. Best of luck in your endeavors. John, AKA Johnny Bones. Johnny Bones, thank you. An attorney at law. Ready Player One. Haven't heard of it. This says delightful, the grown-ups Harry Potter. Well, I liked Harry Potter. There you have it, our very first mail on the couch. If you want to send me something, feel free, fire away. Really appreciate the letters, postcards, appreciate the book. Thanks everybody. I have to go make an appearance somewhere. One of my good buddies here in Las Vegas is leaving Las Vegas, moving to Chicago. One of the guys from the little poker texting group that I've mentioned several times, one of the best poker players that I know, is quitting poker. He's leaving it all behind, off to greener pastures, leaving Las Vegas for Chicago, and he's doing it in the wintertime, no less. So he's having a little going away shindig, but I'm not really gonna partake in any of the, the shenanigans of the sort. Planning on going to play a session after I make an appearance. That's reason number one. Reason number two is I think we did enough of that in New Orleans. You like how I pronounce that? New Orleans? I think I learned my pronunciation lesson in the comments. It's not New Orleans, guys, it's New Orleans. or Nolans if you're a true local. I'm probably butchering that, so I'm just gonna stop and not make any more of an attempt there. This is actually a pretty cool spot. Born and raised, pretty far off Strip. Buffalo and Warm Springs, 215, something like that. I think it's actually a tribute to people that were actually born and raised here in Las Vegas. People that are few and far between. But yeah, BAR for short. One of many 24/7 video poker type bars, but this one's pretty cool. Pretty good food, solid cocktails. But like I said, I'm not indulging tonight, so don't try and pressure me.
So you walk in, I was like, oh shit, Andrew.
Alright, good.
Yeah, that's my buddy Andrew. He's a very famous YouTuber. So.
Hi everyone. John Hemmer, aka Hemakuda. Are you still gonna go by Hemakuda now that you don't play poker anymore?
Probably not. Probably just Hema.
As I was saying earlier, one of the, if not the best poker player that I personally know, right here. For sure, the most hours in the lab. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you right now?
I'm extremely pumped. I really am excited to go to Chicago and take on day trading.
Is the excitement more about getting into something new or leaving poker?
A little bit of both. I think the outlook for poker in general is very grim. Live poker will always be there. I'm not too worried about live poker, but as far as online, I'm excited to go to stocks, and I'm also excited to leave poker. So the answer is yeah, both.
You can already see why this guy is the smartest and probably the best poker player that I know.
I just read a lot. I mean, if you read books, that's all I do. I honestly don't think I'm smart. I don't think some people have said that I'm smart. I don't believe that I'm smart at all. I just think that I'm educated. I think I read a lot. I think anybody can become that by just taking the time to put in the work. And it's not a good story, you know. Like nobody likes hearing it. You just read a lot and you study and you get to where you want to be, and that's just kind of how life works.
We're gonna miss you. Don't go. Don't leave us.
Appreciate it, Andrew.
See that? I did it. I went and hung out at the bar. Not a single beverage was drank. Obviously a little bit less exciting than having many beverages, but sometimes you gotta be responsible, I guess. It's interesting though. Times change, things change, people move on. At its peak, we had 10 professional poker players all living in Las Vegas in that text group. One of them I think split their, I guess a couple of them split their time, maybe half the time in Vegas. Now, people are moving on. People are moving on to other ventures, other professions. Not everybody. Some of us are still out here, grinding it out, grinding away. There will always be money to be made in live poker, that's for sure. Live poker is here to stay, not going anywhere anytime soon. New Year is upon us. What do you guys think? Will the Chinese New Year be good for the games, or will they have no effect whatsoever? Alright, so I sat in the 5-10 game. There's 2 5-10 games going, in for 1,500, and there's already like 2 or 3 things to report. The very first hand that I played, some shit went down already. Very first hand. So, under the gun opens for 40. Guy in his direct left calls, middle position calls, and I have ace queen in the big blind. I think you can put the squeeze play on, but with the original raise coming from under the gun, it kind of discourages me a little bit. I think you could pretty easily go either way. I'm happy to call with ace queen and keep a lot of the hands that I dominate in there, but ace queen blocks a lot of value hands, so I think a 3-bet squeeze is certainly reasonable, but I decide to just call. So we go 4 ways to a flop. Flop is ace queen 3 with 2 diamonds. I check, the initial raiser checks, next guy checks, and the player in middle position puts out a small bet. He bets $60. Being out of position and having a flush draw on board, I think a raise is in order here. If there was no flush draw on board, I might be a little bit more tempted to just call. He didn't buy in for the full amount. He bought in for somewhere around 900, something like that. It was a little confusing because he brought some chips from a 2-5 game, and some of the chips were being brought to him from a chip runner. So with the flush draw on board and his small sizing and us being out of position, I decided to put in the check raise and I make it $200. It folds back to him and he thinks for a while, and then he makes the call. So we go heads up to the turn. Turn is an offsuit 8. Pretty good card for us, total brick. This is the point where I got a little bit confused about how much he had. I thought that he had somewhere around $600. And with that sizing, with that stack sizing, it's not that much more than a pot size bet. So I move all in. I just decide to jam it. It turns out he actually has about 750 left, maybe between 700 and 750. So it ends up being a little bit more of an overbet than I expected. But I don't think it matters too much. I think it's okay because if I do have a flush draw, I might play it the same way. If I do have a flush draw here, especially if it's a combo draw. So it's not a super massive overbet. It is an overbet, but not a huge overbet. But anyway, he goes into the tank, thinks and thinks, and then he makes the call. River is an offsuit deuce, and I show my hand, and he mucks. So very first hand, we end up stacking a player, and we get the maximum on a flop 2 pair. So off to a pretty quick start there in the 5-10 game. Shortly after that, there's a semi-interesting hand, and I say semi because I want to try and balance out the hands that I put in these vlogs a little bit. We've definitely been running good over the course of these vlogs, but I also tend to not include a lot of hands that are maybe considered less interesting, but also end up with me maybe not making a huge hand. So in the end, by showing all these hands when I only have a huge hand, the hand selection just ends up a little bit skewed, and it looks like I always have these huge hands. So I'll give you an example here. It folds to the hijack position who opens for 40. I look down at Jack 10 of spades and I make the call, and the big blind calls as well. So we go 3 ways to a flop. Flop is Jack 8-7 with 2 clubs. Flop the top pair in the gutter. Big blind checks. The hijack bets $100. It's a little bit on the big side. So one of those situations again where not completely loving it, but hand is just too good to fold. So I make the call, and the big blind folds. Turn is a 4 of clubs, so the front door flush comes in. This time the hijack checks, and I am happy to do some pot controlling here, so I check as well. River is an offsuit queen, and the hijack checks again. I'm happy to showdown with top pair, so I check back. Hijack shows ace jack with the ace of clubs, and I muck. So that's just an example of a hand where there's not that much action, somewhat meaningless hand, but over the long run, sure, these hands add up, and they also tell a little bit more of the story of a session. You know, there's lots of these little hands here and there where they don't end up with an all-in situation. They end up with me pot controlling or someone else pot controlling, and the pot ends up pretty controlled. It ends up much smaller than a lot of other hands do. So there's a lot of hands like that where I don't include. There's some hands that I win that are like that I don't include, and there's some hands that I lose that I don't include. So I don't know. I'll try and keep the balance with the between all the hands. So that's one example. Last thing to report is whoever sent me these 3 red chips via the waitress with the message of thanks for all the help. That's too kind, man. That was super kind of you. Cheers, appreciate that. They sent this to me anonymously through the waitress. Whoever you are, I appreciate it. Just wrapping up the session. As you can probably tell by my eyes, there's another long one. It's now 8 a.m. Just want to take a walk down to the conservatory because I think they have the Chinese New Year display, decorations and all that stuff set up. Gotta go check it out, see what the Bellagio has done with the place. Alright, so some interesting hands to discuss from the session. First one came when a reg opened from early position to 40. We look down at King Queen of Hearts on the button and make the call, and the big blind calls as well. So we go 3 ways to flop. Flop is King 9-5 Rainbow. Big blind checks and the initial raiser bet's 40. Pretty small bet, but I think we only have one option here. Folding out of the question, raising seems bad, so I call and the big blind folds. So we go heads up to a turn. Turn is a 6. This time the initial raiser bet's 110. It's an interesting point in the hand because I suspect if he's betting this turn, he's probably gonna bet the river. So he's definitely capable of running a 3-barrel. Especially if he happened to pick up some equity and he still doesn't think he has the best hand. So if he happened to have a gut shot on the flop and he picked up a pair, I don't know necessarily that he would slow down because it's pretty tough for that type of a hand to be the best hand here on the turn still. So I think he could still be betting and setting up a 3-barrel. We still beat King Jack and King 10, but I'm not sure if he would be betting those hands in this spot. I don't know if you go into check call mode or if you would continue betting. I suspect he might go into check call mode, but it's tough to say for sure. I know he's a good player. He's a good reg. He's a good winning reg. Not an easy player to play against. So I think he's fairly balanced in this spot. So he could have some straight draws on the flop. He could have some better kings. He could have some worse kings, but I'm not sure if he would bet the worst kings on the turn. But it feels slightly too weak to just throw away King Queen here on the turn. So I make the call and we head to the river. River's another 9. I think that's a pretty good card because I suspect that he probably wouldn't bet a 9 on the flop. I think he might check call with a 9. It's tough to say for sure, as always, but it seems like the 9 doesn't really change too much as far as hurting us. I feel like it helps us, if anything, because it takes away the number of sets, combinations of sets that he could have on the flop. So it doesn't seem like a bad card. But this time he bets $330. So it's pretty much the same situation that I suspected was going to happen when I called the turn. I suspected he was going to bet pretty much any river card. I just expected him to always bet the river. I don't think King Queen is super high up on our range here on the river. We could easily have full houses, potentially a straight. It's the best king we could have because I would 3-bet ace king. So somewhere in the middle, I guess. Since it's in the middle, I don't think it's too bad to go either way, calling or folding. I just decided to stick to the plan since I knew he was going to bet any river, and he did. So I toss it in, I make the call, and he rolls over 7-8. So he turned the nuts, turned a straight. I suspect if he had a different gut shot type hand, that he would continue betting, because even if he turns a pair and if he doesn't think it's good, which is very reasonable to think, I suspect he could keep betting, and then he could turn that pair into a 3-barrel bluff. Now, whether that's actually the case, whether he would do that for sure, I don't know, but he's definitely capable of it. So I think my call is fine. So, not great, not terrible. Next spot came up pretty shortly after that. We were playing 4-handed. It's the middle of the night on a Wednesday night, so playing super short-handed here, 4-handed, and the same player opens up for 30 from under the gun. Once again, look down at King Queen on the button, and I make the call. This time we go heads up. Flop is ace king 9 rainbow. He puts out a C bet, very small C bet again. He bets 20. Second pair, best kicker. Pretty straightforward. Once again, I make the call. Turn is a good card. Turn is a king. Puts a backdoor flush draw up, but pretty good card, I would say, for us. This time he checks, and I make a fairly small bet again. I bet 40. Maybe I could bet bigger and try and charge the max that I can get from an ace. I don't think an ace would just automatically check fold here, so probably could have bet a little bigger, but I bet 40 and he makes the call. So we're off to the river. River is a blank. River's an offsuit 7. He checks again and I try to get some more value. I bet 110. This is where it gets pretty interesting. Doesn't call, doesn't fold, puts in the check raise, makes it 400 to go. Pretty weird spot. And this time we have pretty close to the top of our range. The only better hands that we could have here would be pocket 9s. If we somehow had like king 9 suited, that would be a better hand. We would never have pocket 7s here. We would never have ace king here. We would never have pocket aces or pocket kings here. So we have the third best hand that we could possibly have here. Feels like it's pretty close to the top of our range. The problem is we beat absolutely nothing for value unless he decides to take some sort of interesting line with king jack, king 10. Seems highly unlikely. So we beat pretty much nothing for value, and he has to be turning some sort of a hand like queen jack, queen 10 into a bluff, or a random ace into a bluff. Perhaps he could have picked up a flush draw on the turn, but I don't know, it's weird. I suspect that he would continue betting with those hands on the turn. Really weird spot. Doesn't feel great. So I go into the tank and I'm just trying to figure out whether I can fold this hand. I think it's fairly close, but him being a good player and being fairly balanced as far as I can tell, as far as I know, and us just having the pretty close to the top of our range, toss in the call, make the call once again, and once again we get shown the goods, pocket aces. So I don't know, I keep running into the top of people's ranges here, but I don't know. We block ace king, we block king 9. I think he never has pocket 7s there, just like we never have pocket 7s there. Is he capable of just turning a random hand into a bluff here just because his range is less capped than my range is? Sure, he's capable of it. Would he do it? Who knows? So I don't know. Not really loving how these hands are playing out. Keep running into the goods when I thought I had a decent hand, but not good enough. So that's kind of the story of my night for the most part. The story of my morning, I should say. Just getting whacked left and right. So gonna book a loss this session. That's the way it goes sometimes. Believe it or not, that vlog run good doesn't happen every time. So we book a loss of a little bit over $1,200, which is pretty reasonable loss in a 5-10 game. Much better than the 27 or 2,800 that I was stuck at one point. So can't complain. Ran bad and definitely did not play my best session today, but not too much to be said about it. Just gonna try and do better next time. All right, I'm out of here. It's like 8:30 or almost 9 a.m. now. Sleep schedule at risk of being completely ruined. Time to get out of here. Time to go to bed.